What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Table Talk. I'm Andrew, and this is a channel where we talk about what board games you should be bringing to your table. Today is the thought experiment, the idea, what if you were trapped on a desert island and could only bring 5 board games for the rest of your life? What games are you bringing? Let's get it started. So this thought is actually really interesting because I wasn't even thinking about bringing my favorite board games, but I had to think of a number of factors. I got to think about variability, expansions, content. How am I going to get play out of this for the rest of my life if I only have 5 games? And here is my list. At number 5, I'm going with Blood on the Clocktower. Easy pick. I love social deduction games because they're based all around the people and the social situations, people backstabbing and betraying and lying and making alliances, and that changes every single game, makes every single game different. What I like about Blood on the Clocktower, though, is how many roles you can throw in. It's more complex, but if I'm playing with the same people for the rest of my life, we're going to have it down good. And that's the problem with some social deduction games is I like how simple they are, but if you play them too much, it kind of becomes a similar rhythm. But with Blood on the Clocktower, like, crap just gets crazy. You got people literally going insane, killing each other, lying to each other, not even knowing who they are. And with all the different sets, it is a game I could play for the rest of my life. 5, Blood on the Clocktower. My number 4 is a game also revolving around people, and I think that's the key to these games, is if you have that player interaction, it's going to change each game versus if it's just like a dry Euro or like efficiency puzzle, at some point you might like solve it. And people, if they're really involved, play interaction that just like throws a giant wrench that always makes a difference. So Cosmic Encounter has a bunch of expansions, and it's all based around this idea of pretty much you just negotiating in battles, trying to get 5 planets. But each of you is a different alien. There's like a million of them. They all have crazy powers. And the thing that makes this game so great is the people, the alliances, the backstabbing, betrayal. Very similar to social deduction game, but with more strategy. And I think this game, I could just see playing it just forever because there's so many different aliens, but also the players in the game and their alien powers and those interactions are just going to change every single time. So that's my number 4, Cosmic Encounter. My number 3 is a game that is a sandbox, so the idea that you can go wherever you want. It's got expansions, and that is Western Legends. What I love about Western Legends is because the sandbox, you could try a completely different strategy every time. Just go gold mining. Just be evil, just be good, go gambling, or a mix of all of them, rob a train. And it's a sandbox Red Dead Redemption, Wild West shootout. And also here, player interaction is huge. Like one game, all of you guys could be outlaws. One game, it could be half and half. One of you guys, all you'd be good guys. And that player interaction and you screwing over other people or helping them completely change the game every time. And there's a bunch of characters and items in this game. I could not see it getting old. That's my number 3. Western Legends. My number 2 is a game I love, but it's like super complex, so I hardly ever play it. But if I'm playing it for the rest of my life, I'm set, and that is Root. Root also has a bunch of expansions. It's this war game based around woodland critters fighting out Redwall style. And this game, there's so much depth to it, like I'm literally barely at the surface scratching. I don't even still understand completely how the cards work. But if I have the rest of my life, I'm going to figure it out. And the different factions battling and the depth of the different strategies with all the different factions would just make it so replayable for the rest of my life. And that is my number 2, Root. And my number 1 is, actually before I get into that, I'm going to do a few honorable mentions. Surprisingly, my number 1 game of all time, Marvel United, is not on this list because it is a cooperative game. I've already played everything in Wave 1. I could see it happening with Wave 2 soon because it's so easy to play. So I could actually see myself, I still think it would be interesting, but I could see myself realistically playing it out if I had unlimited time. But a couple games on my honorable mention are any type of negotiation game, because again, people would make the experience different every time. Nothing Personal, Spartacus, New Angeles, any of those negotiation games. But again, none of those have a ton of expansions, and I could also see eventually kind of like figuring out the right strategy. Actually, Nothing Personal has expansions, but yeah, just barely missed. And the other one I thought of was games with variability. So like Marvel Unite, Arcadia Quest, Sleeping Gods, Heroescape. But again, I could see them because they do have player interaction, but not a ton. Eventually you like kind of mathing it out if you have unlimited plays. But yeah, so those are my honorable mentions, negotiation games, games with high variability and expansions. Let's get to my number one. My number one is a game I've never actually played. And that is Zombicide Black Plague. Now, I have played Zombicide 2nd Edition. I own it. I'm a backer of Marvel Zombies coming soon, but I didn't pick them because Marvel Zombies isn't out yet, or I probably would pick it. And Zombicide 2nd Edition, though it does have expansions and scenarios that CMON has uploaded, Zombicide Black Plague has a whole initial wave, Green Horde, which works with it, a bunch of scenarios for years CMON has put out. And so that is why it's my number one. I love Zombicide, and there's just so many scenarios out there. You're just running through, killing zombies. And I think there's so many scenarios that by the time I would have played them all, I'll just go back and replay them. And so that is my number one of all time. I could see it being fun for a long, long time. So in the comments below, please mention what your Desert Island games would be. What would the criteria be? Why would you pick those games? And with all that being said, next week I'm going to be coming back with my top 10 couple games, and I'm going to catch you guys on the flip side.